You ever feel like you're behind simply because you don't have money? Like the world has already picked its winners based on cars, watches, or who makes the most noise online. You scroll through your feed. Everyone's flaunting something. Vacations, new suits, bank balances. And there you are, wondering if you'll ever be seen without the status symbols. There was a time I believed the same. That until I made money, I had no value, no voice, that I had to chase approval, pretend, impress. But something changed. I started studying the quiet ones. The men who said little but owned every room they walked into. Men who had no need to convince, because they had already convinced themselves. And that's when I discovered the truth. The most magnetic men? They don't need money to be valuable. They carry something deeper. In the next few minutes, I'll show you what that is and how to build it, even if you have nothing. In a world where men are ranked by what they earn, drive, or where something primal is being lost, the kind of man who doesn't need noise to prove value, the kind of man who can walk into a room, say nothing, and still command respect. We've confused status with substance. We think value is in the designer shoes, not the steps we take. So most men chase louder lives, more likes, faster results, bigger performances. But the high-value man, he's different. He doesn't show off. He shows up. He doesn't dominate people. He dominates himself. And here's the twist. Most of these men don't start with wealth. They build from something money can't buy. This isn't about getting rich. It's about getting real. Because when you remove all the noise, all the metrics, all the social media filters, what are you left with? If you're tired of pretending, if you want to become a man of quiet power, of unshakable value, this video will give you 7 timeless principles to get there. No gimmicks. No flex. No fluff. Let's begin. 1. Master your emotions. You've heard it said 1,000 times. Control your emotions. But very few men understand why this matters, or how to actually do it. Let's be clear. Emotions aren't the enemy. Anger, sadness, fear, they're natural responses. What separates a high-value man from the rest isn't that he doesn't feel. It's that he doesn't become a slave to what he feels. He doesn't react. He responds. There's a difference. A reaction is automatic, chaotic, emotional. A response is intentional, grounded, and powerful. Picture this. You're insulted. Publicly. Everyone's waiting to see what you'll do. Most men explode. The high-value man breathes, pauses, smiles maybe, then chooses his next move without needing to win the moment. Why? Because he already knows. Losing emotional control means handing over power, and he never negotiates with his own dignity. Epictetus, a Stoic philosopher, said it perfectly. It's not what happens to you, but how you react that matters. You don't control the world. You can't control people's opinions, the economy, your past. But your emotional response? That's your domain. That's your battlefield. And here's the secret. When people see you staying calm under pressure, they instinctively trust you more. They respect you more. Women feel safer around you. Men feel smaller when they try to provoke you and fail, because silence is unsettling when it comes from strength. Now, let me tell you a short story. There was a man who worked in a toxic office. He was quiet, soft-spoken. One day, a coworker lost his temper and shouted at him across the meeting table. Everyone braced for impact. The quiet man stood up, adjusted his chair, and calmly said, "I'll let you cool off. I'll be back when it's professional." And he walked out. No threats, no argument, no reaction. You know what happened? He became the most respected man in the building. The one people came to for advice. The one people stopped testing because he didn't play games. He wasn't trying to win petty battles. He was playing a longer game. That's what emotional mastery looks like. Now, how do you get there? You build it. Like a muscle. Let me give you 3 ways to start. 1. Pause before you speak when something triggers you. Don't respond immediately. Pause for 3 seconds. It feels unnatural at first. But in that pause, you reclaim your control. You go from being a puppet to being the puppeteer of your own life. 2. Name the emotion. Don't become it. Say to yourself, I feel anger, but I am not anger. I feel fear, but I am not fear. This simple language shift gives you distance. It reminds you that emotions are like weather. They pass. You are the sky, not the storm. 3. Train daily, not just during crises. Every day. Find small moments to practice control. The guy who cuts you off in traffic? Don't swear. Smile. The delay in your day? Breathe, not complain. The urge to prove your point in every conversation? Let it go. Each time you choose stillness over reaction, you become more unshakable. And that, my brother, is high value. Because in a world of men who panic, rage, overshare, and seek constant validation, the man who controls himself controls the room. Now hear this. Stoicism doesn't mean you're numb. It means your emotions serve you, not the other way around. You'll still feel everything. You'll just stop letting everything control you. That's power. And when you master your emotions, you send a silent message to the world. I'm not here to be liked. I'm here to be respected. And whether you have money or not, that mindset, that presence, will open doors no currency ever could. So remember, don't react. Respond. That's the difference between being average and becoming unbreakable. Point 2. Create unshakable boundaries. Let me say something uncomfortable. If you don't have boundaries, you don't have value. Read that again. Because men today are being trained, quietly and constantly, to keep the peace, to go along. Say yes. Avoid conflict. Be liked. But here's the truth. A man who can't say no will never be truly respected. Not by women. Not by other men. Not even by himself. The high-value man doesn't chase approval. He sets standards. He's not rude. He's not arrogant. He's just immovable. That's the key. Now, you might be wondering, what do boundaries have to do with being high value without money? Everything. Because when you don't have money, people will test you harder. They'll try to take more, your time, your energy, your self-respect, because they assume you have less to offer. They assume you're desperate to be accepted. Your only defense? Unshakable boundaries. Let's break this down. A boundary is simply a line. It says, this is where I end, and you begin. This is what I tolerate, and this is what I walk away from. Weak men fear setting that line. They'd rather be accepted than respected. They'll say yes when they want to say no. They'll go along just to avoid rocking the boat. And they drown in that boat. But high-value men, they live by quiet rules. And they enforce them without explanation or apology. Imagine this. You're talking to a woman. She flirts with you, then disrespects you subtly. Most guys will laugh it off, act like it didn't happen. The high-value man, he simply disengages. He doesn't explain why. He doesn't try to correct her. He just exits the frame. That move, that calm silence, that boundary, it speaks louder than words. Because here's the law of boundaries. What you tolerate teaches people how to treat you. So if you constantly allow lateness, disrespect, manipulation, or inconsistency, you're training the world to devalue you. Now, let's be practical. Here are 3 core boundaries every man must build, especially if you don't have money or status yet. 1. The no boundary. You have to learn to say no without guilt. No, I'm not free today. No, I'm not comfortable with that. No, I don't lend money I can't afford to lose. It's not about being cold. It's about conserving your time, energy, and self-respect. People will push back. They'll call you selfish. They'll try to guilt trip you. Let them reveal themselves. That's how you filter out users, manipulators, and emotional vampires. 2. The time boundary. Your time is your most limited asset. If someone constantly disrespects your time, showing up late, canceling last minute, dragging out conversations with no purpose, it's your fault if it keeps happening. Set expectations. Cut short energy-draining chats. And never overcommit to what doesn't align with your purpose. High-value men value their own time so deeply, others have no choice but to do the same. 3. The emotional boundary. This one's subtle but powerful. Never let someone else's mood hijack yours. Someone's angry? Let them be. Someone's anxious? Don't absorb it. Someone's playing hot and cold? Stay grounded. You're not a sponge. You're a pillar. And the moment you internalize that, people will feel the shift. They'll start treating you differently. Because they know your emotional world is yours, not theirs to play with. Let's go deeper. Why do most men struggle to set boundaries? Because they think being liked equals being safe. But that's false security. What you win through people-pleasing, you lose through self-betrayal. The real truth? Not everyone's supposed to like you. And you're not supposed to be accessible to everyone. In fact, if everyone finds you agreeable, pleasant, or nice, it probably means you have no edges, no walls, no spine. And here's the twist. Women don't fall in love with men who are always available. They respect men who are self-respecting. Boundaries create scarcity. Scarcity creates value. Value creates attraction. So when you stop saying yes to everything, you stop leaking power. You stop giving people easy access to what should be earned. That's how you increase your perceived value without needing a cent. People won't always say it, but they'll feel it. You move differently. You don't beg. You don't break. You don't chase. You choose. And when you have that posture, you don't need money to be high value. You just need backbone. 3. Practice relentless discipline. If you stripped away every advantage, money, looks, status, connections, there's one thing left that can change your life: discipline. The high-value man doesn't chase comfort. He chases structure. And in a world drowning in distraction, he becomes rare, not by what he owns, but by what he repeats. Discipline is silent. It doesn't brag. It doesn't need to be seen. But it builds a reputation louder than words. Ask yourself something. If I followed you around for 24 hours, would I see a man who's committed to something? Or a man who's drifting, scrolling, surviving? Because here's the truth most men avoid. Your life is the sum of your daily habits. And your habits reflect who you really are, not who you wish you were. Want to know the secret of high-value men? They keep promises to themselves, especially when no one's watching. Anyone can show up once. Anyone can go hard for a week. But discipline? That's doing what you said you'd do, over and over and over, long after the feeling is left. Now, you don't need money to do this. Discipline doesn't require a gym membership. It doesn't require followers. It doesn't care if you're rich or broke. It only requires one thing: respect for yourself. Let me show you how discipline turns an average man into a force of nature. 1. Discipline builds trust in yourself. Most men don't trust themselves because they constantly break promises to themselves. They say they'll wake up early, but they hit snooze. They say they'll work out, but they quit halfway. They say they'll stay off their phone, but hours later they're still scrolling. Each time you break that promise, your mind takes notes. You teach yourself, I don't follow through. You become unreliable to you. But every time you follow through, even in small things, you build a silent kind of strength. You stop needing external validation because your own actions start validating you. You become a man you can count on. And that's rare. 2. Discipline separates you from the crowd. Most people live on autopilot. They eat whatever they want. They consume whatever feels good. They live reactive lives. But discipline makes you stand out quietly. You're not partying every weekend. You're not chasing every trend. You're not explaining your grind. You're focused. And because you're focused, you move faster than men with twice your resources. That's why women notice you. That's why men respect you. Not because of your lifestyle, but because you're clearly building one. 3. Discipline creates inner wealth. There's something no one talks about, and it's this. Discipline makes you feel rich, even when you're broke. Why? Because you're not wasting time. You're not addicted to dopamine. You're not a slave to your impulses. You walk with a kind of quiet power. A man who can deny short-term pleasure for long-term progress is wealthier in spirit than men who have everything but self-control. That's why high value isn't about money. It's about mastery. Now let's be honest. Discipline isn't sexy. It's not viral. It's not always fun. Sometimes it's 5 a.m. and you're exhausted. Sometimes it's turning off Netflix when no one's forcing you. Sometimes it's saying no to what feels good so you can make space for what's great. But over time, that pain becomes pride. And that pride becomes presence. Because a man who disciplines himself, who eats well, trains consistently, studies deeply, controls his desires, he walks differently. He doesn't flinch under pressure. He doesn't chase. He chooses. And people feel that. Women feel that. Opportunities feel that. The world may not clap for your discipline today, but in 6 months, a year, 2 years, the results will speak for themselves. So if you're broke, overlooked, ignored, underestimated, start here. Start with your routine. Start with one habit, one promise, and keep it. Because if you don't have money yet, your discipline is your currency. And when you build that relentlessly, people will start to value you, not because of what you have, but because of what you've built inside. 4. Become deeply purpose-driven. Let's ask the real question. What are you building that outlives you? Most men live for weekends. High-value men live for impact. If you want to stand out, without money, without fame, without followers, you need something far more powerful: purpose. Because when a man moves with purpose, he becomes magnetic. Not flashy, not loud, but felt. He's not trying to impress. He's trying to fulfill something deeper. Now listen closely. Most people confuse goals with purpose, but they're not the same. A goal is something you check off. A purpose is something you become. A goal ends when you hit the target. A purpose stretches into your future and beyond you. Purpose isn't always profitable. At first, it won't make you money. It may not get you recognition. It may even isolate you, but it grounds you. And in a chaotic world, grounded men rise. Let me explain it like this. Imagine two men walking through a storm. One is looking for comfort. The other is chasing meaning. The first man gets lost when the winds blow. The second man moves straight through because his eyes are fixed on why he started. That's what purpose gives you, direction when everything feels dark. It's not about being perfect. It's about being pulled forward by something bigger than comfort. You can tell when a man has purpose. He's not easily distracted. He's not easily tempted. He doesn't need to be told what to do because he told himself already. And this is what makes you high value without a dime. Because when you have purpose, you stop chasing validation, you stop living reactively. You stop wondering who you are. You just build. And in the silence of that building, you become unforgettable. So what does it look like to live with purpose? Let me give you 3 signs. 1. You make long-term moves, not short-term noise. Men with purpose are patient. They don't need quick wins or constant applause. They know what they're building takes time, and they're okay with that. They say no to distractions. They delay gratification. They're building legacy, not lifestyle. Think of a man writing a book, mastering a craft, starting a mission-driven business. It's not sexy. It's not viral. But give him time, and he becomes unstoppable. 2. You sacrifice comfort for alignment. Purpose will cost you something. It will cost you sleep. It will cost you popularity. It will cost you ease. But it gives you clarity in return. And that clarity will cut through every excuse, every fear, every comfort zone. Ask yourself, what are you willing to lose to become who you're meant to be? That answer will tell you how serious your purpose really is. 3. You serve something bigger than yourself. This is where real masculinity begins. When your life stops being about you. Because the highest purpose is always connected to service. Maybe you want to lead men. Maybe you want to protect family. Maybe you want to heal, teach, innovate, build something that helps people breathe easier. Whatever it is, make it bigger than your ego. Because when you serve something higher, your presence deepens. People feel it when you walk into a room. They don't know what it is, but they know you're not ordinary. Let me tell you a truth no one shares. You can be broke and powerful. You can have 0 followers, but massive pull. You can be unnoticed today and unstoppable in 12 months. If you lock in on purpose, women don't just chase looks or luxury. They chase certainty. And a man with purpose is certain. He doesn't need to explain himself. His consistency is the explanation. He doesn't need to prove anything. His direction proves everything. So if you're sitting there thinking, I don't have much right now. Good. Then now is the perfect time to build something that no one can take from you. Not a title, not a salary, not status, but a mission. Because once a man is on a mission, he becomes dangerous. Not to hurt others, but to silence every part of him that ever settled for less. So let me leave you with this. Don't waste another week living passively. Choose your direction. Own your why. Move with fire, even if the world can't see the flames yet. That's how purpose turns an ordinary man into one the world can't ignore. 5. Cultivate silent confidence. There's a kind of man you'll never forget. He doesn't yell to be heard. He doesn't beg to be liked. He doesn't perform to be noticed. He simply is. That's silent confidence. The type of power that doesn't need noise to announce itself. You see, most men misunderstand confidence. They think it's about being the loudest, the boldest, the most dominant presence in the room. But real confidence? It's the opposite. It's calm. It's quiet. It's undeniable. Think of a lion. He doesn't roar all day. He only roars when he has to. Otherwise, he walks slowly, observes deeply, attacks only when the time is right. That's the energy of a high-value man. Silent confidence is knowing you don't need to prove yourself to anyone because you've already proven yourself to yourself. And you can't buy that kind of confidence. It doesn't come from clothes, cars, or clout. It comes from clarity, competence, and character. Let me break it down. 1. Clarity. When you know who you are, you don't flinch. You don't over-explain. You don't try to match every room. You bring yourself into it. You're not confused about your values, your vision, or your vibe. That clarity becomes attractive, magnetic. People want to follow men who know who they are, even if they disagree with them. And guess what? That clarity comes from silence, from time spent alone, from asking hard questions and answering them honestly. 2. Confidence is earned. It's not mindset. It's not affirmations. It's reputation with yourself. When you build skill, when you master your craft, when you do hard things consistently, you begin to walk differently. Not because you think you're good enough, but because you know you are. You don't have to say it. It shows in how you move. 3. Character. This is the foundation. The quiet man who tells the truth, even when it's costly. Who keeps promises, even when no one checks. Who doesn't gossip, overtalk, or seek attention, because he's anchored in integrity. That kind of man? He doesn't need a stage. His presence is the message. Let's be honest. In today's world, everyone's trying to be seen, to go viral, to get validation from strangers. But the high-value man, he isn't addicted to the spotlight. He's addicted to substance. He walks in silence because his work is louder than his words. And the beauty of this? You don't need money to be that man. You don't need status. You just need discipline, direction, and self-respect. Let me tell you a quick story. There was a man in his 20s. No fancy job, no following, no fame, but he carried himself like he owned the street. He looked people in the eye. He didn't fidget or shrink. He listened more than he spoke. And when he did speak, he meant every word. People assumed he was rich. Women assumed he was powerful. But he wasn't. He was just sure of himself. Because every morning he woke up with purpose, trained with discipline, spoke with intention, and moved with peace. That's what people felt. Not his money, his energy. That's silent confidence. Let me give you 3 quick habits to start building it right now. A. Walk slower. Speak slower. Speed is anxiety. Stillness is control. Walk with purpose, not haste. Speak with pauses, not filler. Let people lean in when you talk. Don't rush to be understood. B. Hold eye contact without forced look. Don't stare. Calm eye contact signals presence. It tells people, I see you, but I'm not trying to impress you. It builds instant authority without a single word. C. Master the art of saying less. Every time you overtalk, you devalue your words. But when you say less and mean every word, people listen when you speak. Mystery creates gravity, and gravity pulls people in. Now, here's what no one tells you. Silent confidence is intimidating. People will misread you. They'll call you cold, arrogant, too quiet. Let them project their noise onto your silence. Because eventually they'll realize you're not quiet because you're insecure. You're quiet because you're in control. And that kind of man doesn't need a crowd to feel worthy. He is the storm. He is the standard. He is the signal in the noise. So if you have no money, no spotlight, no validation right now, start here. Speak less. Move with purpose. Build skill. Be honest. Own your space. And let your silence say what words never could. I am enough. 6. Refine your communication. You've probably heard this before. Communication is key. But here's the part they never tell you. Most men talk too much and say too little. High-value men, they refine every word. They don't speak to fill silence. They speak to shape it. And in a world addicted to noise, still speech stands out. You don't need to be loud. You don't need a deep voice or a silver tongue. You just need to master this. Clarity, calm, control. Because communication isn't just about what you say. It's about how you say it and what you choose not to say at all. Let's go deeper. Why does refined communication matter? Because your words are your signal. They're your energy in verbal form. They either draw people closer or expose your weakness. And here's the twist. The less you say, the more weight each word carries. Think about it. Who are the men people really listen to? It's not the one dominating the room. It's the one who listens, pauses, speaks with intention. Because that man has presence. And presence always speaks louder than volume. Let me give you 3 principles to sharpen your communication instantly. 1. Speak less. Mean more. High-value men don't over-explain. They don't argue for the sake of winning. They don't chase validation with stories or jokes. They say what needs to be said and leave it there. Want to stand out? Cut the fluff. Drop the filler words. Stop qualifying everything with I think or I guess. Speak like you've thought about what you're saying. And then say it once, with conviction. People will feel the shift. 2. On the pause, silence isn't awkward. It's powerful if you know how to use it. When you pause before you speak, you command attention. When you pause after you speak, you create impact. That moment of silence between your words, that's where the message sinks in. Inexperienced men rush. They're afraid of silence, afraid of seeming unsure. But high-value men, they pause. Because they're not in a hurry to be understood. They already understand themselves. 3. Listen to lead. This one's underrated. The best communicators are the best listeners. Not because they're passive, but because they're calculating. They're watching for patterns. They're listening for weakness. They're tuning into emotional cues. You can learn more in 5 minutes of silence than in 30 minutes of talking. Want people to respect your voice? Let them feel seen first. Then when you speak, they listen because they trust that you heard them. Now, let's talk about tone. Your tone is 80% of your communication. Speak too fast, you sound nervous. Speak too slow, you sound disengaged. Speak too soft, they miss the message. Speak too loud, they feel attacked. Find that middle ground. Relax your jaw, drop your shoulders, and speak like every word matters, because it does. Your voice doesn't need to dominate. It just needs to land. With weight, with depth. Here's a mindset shift for you. Stop speaking to be liked. Start speaking to be understood. Because when you use your voice like a tool, not a weapon, you stop chasing attention and start commanding it. And yes, you can do all of this without a dollar to your name. Because communication isn't about what you have. It's about how you carry what you say. When you refine your speech, you refine your energy. And the world feels that. Let me give you a simple framework for high-value communication. The 4 C's. Clear, say what you mean. Avoid vague language. Concise, less is more. Don't ramble. Confident, own your message. Don't dilute it with hesitation. Calm, deliver it with control. The slower the pulse, the stronger the presence. That's the formula. Not hype, not volume, not drama. Just deliberate delivery. Now here's the warning. As you refine your communication, some people will get uncomfortable. They're used to men who overshare, overexplain, overcompensate. Your calm will feel like arrogance. Your pauses will feel like judgment. Your silence will feel like rejection. Let it. Let them feel the contrast. Because you're not here to be easy to digest. You're here to be respected. And respect starts when your words stop chasing approval. So remember, a man who speaks with purpose, who listens without waiting to reply, who speaks slowly, clearly, and rarely. That man doesn't just talk. He influences. Even without money. Even without followers. Because in a world full of noise, his words feel like signal. 7. Build invisible status. Let's close with this. If money is visible status, then what you want is invisible status. Because the most powerful men in any room, they're often not the loudest, not the flashiest, not even the richest. They're the ones everyone respects. But no one can quite explain why. That's invisible status. It's not built on your bank account. It's built on how you carry yourself when no one's watching. And here's what makes it so rare. You can't fake it. You can't buy it. You can't post it. You can only become it. Let me explain. Invisible status is when people defer to you, even without knowing your title. When your presence shifts energy. When you walk into a room and something changes. It's built from the inside out. Through your discipline. Through your emotional control. Through your boundaries, your calm, your clarity, your consistency. And the best part? You don't have to announce it. You don't have to chase it. People just feel it. That's the final evolution of a high-value man. Now, here's how to build it. 1. Live by personal codes. Men with invisible status have rules, not to control others, but to govern themselves. They wake up at a certain time. They don't lie, even when it's easy. They don't speak when it's better to observe. They don't chase drama, gossip, or empty praise. And because they follow their own rules, people subconsciously trust them. Because most people are ruled by impulses. But you? You're ruled by principle. That's power. 2. Let your reputation speak for you. Invisible status is earned when you do things the right way, even when no one's clapping. You finish the work. You return what you borrow. You show up when you said you would. People start talking, but not because you asked them to. They say things like, "Bro's solid. He always delivers. Can't explain it, but I trust him." You become reliable. And reliability is the new luxury. 3. Treat everyone with respect. Not just the powerful. Watch how a man treats waiters, cleaners, or interns, and you'll see his true status. The man with invisible status treats everyone with quiet dignity because he doesn't need to prove hierarchy. He knows who he is. He doesn't perform. And ironically, that makes him stand above everyone trying to prove something. People remember how you made them feel. Respect is silent, but unforgettable. Now let me warn you. When you build invisible status, some people won't like it. Because they can't put you in a box. You don't flex. You don't beg. You don't try to fit in. And that threatens people who rely on external symbols, money, cars, status posts to feel seen. You don't need any of that. Your peace is louder than their noise. Here's a mindset shift. Status isn't what people say about you publicly. It's what they whisper when you leave the room. Are you respected? Or just tolerated? Are you trusted? Or just liked? The invisible high-value man doesn't need applause. He earns alignment, and he does it in silence. Let me leave you with 3 final habits to lock this in. A. Be consistently excellent at the small things, whether it's how you show up to meetings, how you reply to texts, how you keep your space. People notice. And they associate you with quality even when you're not trying to impress. B. Make fewer moves, but make them count. Don't post every win. Don't broadcast every decision. Move strategically, quietly. Let curiosity grow around you. That's status without noise. C. Protect your energy. Not everyone deserves access to you. Not every conversation deserves a reply. The more selective you are with your time and presence, the more powerful your presence becomes. That's why the most high-value men are rarely available. But when they are, everyone listens. So if you're broke, unknown, underestimated, good. Start building invisible status. Become the man who doesn't need to be seen, to be felt. The man who earns trust in silence, moves with weight, leaves impressions without trying. That man doesn't just attract success. He becomes the kind of man who can handle it when it arrives. Now let's recap. You've just learned 7 principles to become a high-value man without needing a single dollar. Master your emotions, create unshakable boundaries, practice relentless discipline, become deeply purpose-driven, cultivate silent confidence, refine your communication, build invisible status. No flex, no flash, just quiet power built from within. Now it's your turn. Don't chase being a high-value man. Choose it. You don't need millions to move like a man of value. You don't need applause to walk with quiet power. Because at the end of the day, the world doesn't reward noise. It rewards depth. Start now. Master your emotions. Guard your time. Live with purpose. Speak with clarity. Move in silence. Become the man others feel, but can't quite explain. That's real status. That's stoic strength. That's the man no one can ignore, even if they never hear his name. If this spoke to you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, being broke is temporary, but being low value? That's a choice. Choose better. Subscribe for more stoic truths and silent transformations.